Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where TikTok is ruining OP's marriage. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she's not worthy of what she's asking for? My wife and I have been together for 5 years, and she's currently pregnant with our baby. A few days ago, she sent me a TikTok video of a woman discussing the concept of a push present on one of those podcasts. At first, I didn't even know what it meant, but when I looked it up, I found out it's basically a thank you gift to the woman who has your baby. This concept seemed very strange to me. I understand the desire for appreciation from your husband for what women go through during pregnancy and childbirth, but the materialistic aspect gave me a pause. The woman in the TikTok went on and on about how it's a body for a body, suggesting that the man should get a permanent tattoo on his lower body, as well as give her a house and a car as exclusive gifts. I found those expectations to be quite entitled, honestly a bit vindictive and envious, especially the tattoo part, and very over the top for my taste. The decision to bring a child into the world is a mutual one between partners. My wife, in our case, is not forced to be a mom or to be pregnant. She wants to be a parent too. I simply replied to the TikTok with laughing emojis and moved on, thinking it would be the end of it and that she meant to send the video as satire, like, "Oh, look how ridiculous this is." She was in the other room when I reacted to the video, and she came to me, telling me that while she doesn't expect a tattoo or an exclusive house, she does want me to dip into my personal savings to get her a car just for her. I looked at her almost shocked and began laughing. I thought my wife and I shared similar views on how ridiculous people can be, and I realized I was wrong. I thought she was joking, and I pressed her to see if she was serious. She became very annoyed, and I thought she was joking, possibly imitating the entitled woman in the video, and flatly stated that she expects a real push present. I told her that her gift is the gift of parenthood and the realization of a healthy baby. Materially speaking, I'll probably gift her a Mother's Day card, a day out, or some jewelry she wants, under $700, but nothing more. I mentioned that if she really wants an extra car, it will be our car, not just hers. She insisted it wasn't enough for what she would go through. She kept pushing and asked if I thought she wasn't worthy enough. I told her she is worthy as my partner and the mother of my child, but she needs to be realistic and understand that neither of us is individually deserving of what she's asking for. I said she has to manage her expectations because I don't see why she feels entitled to that. It came out wrong, but I didn't mean to dismiss her as a person. She isn't speaking to me now and is crying about the argument. I overheard her criticizing me to her sister on the phone, but under no circumstances would I ever consider gifting her a car. I feel bad that she's hurting right now, but I don't feel bad for giving her a reality check. My push present was sushi right after the little one was born. I really wanted sushi the whole time I was pregnant and couldn't have any. Not the jerk. I'm pregnant, and my husband is going to gift me my birthstone jewelry, and I'm gifting him a watch with an engraving. Those TikTok videos absolutely wreck relationships. My sister-in-law at one point almost left my brother-in-law because he wouldn't make her a boo basket for Halloween. I don't know why women follow relationship advice from TikTok. Social media is destroying relationships at an alarming rate. Am I the jerk for not sharing the surprises in the dingy house that was my share of inheritance? I, 37 female, have 2 siblings, 43-year-old brother and 29-year-old sister. For the sake of this post, I will call them Mason and Brittany. Our father passed when we were young due to an undiagnosed heart problem. His parents had gifted them an old family homestead on a lot of land at their wedding and helped a lot to keep our family above water before they passed. Our mother finally found her feet after about 5 years of deep depression and did well for our family, but she was also very frugal. We had good clothing, but no fancy vacations. Our mother ignored signs of bad health for years, even when we tried to get her to see someone for it. She passed recently due to late-stage cancer, leaving us with a lot. My siblings each got more than $150,000 in money, sentimental but expensive items, and furniture. I did not get the money. I received the house, the land, and some items. The house and land, which had been sold off bit by bit over the years due to Mom's declining health and inability to properly tend to it, is worth far below the $150,000 my siblings received. I had moved in with my mother near her end, and it really was only supposed to be temporary, as I believed the house would be sold after her passing and the money split 3 ways. I already had a plan to move in with a friend and her family after Mom's passing to make that process go more smoothly. Most of my stuff has been sitting in storage for almost a year. As the only one who worked from home, I could watch the home health workers and nurses to make sure that they were being kind, doing their jobs, and not stealing. Mostly it was to ensure they treated my mother with respect and kindness, but my brother did worry about someone walking off with her wedding ring since she was so attached to it. We all agreed for it to be placed in with her ashes, so I made a little setup and took care of her. My siblings came by frequently, 3 to 6 times a week, each of them. Mason had 2 kids, and Brittany only has 1, but they visited as well, though not as much near the end because it was hard for them. In the weeks leading up to her passing, my mother had me pack up what items went to whom in large boxes and set them off to the side. My siblings hated doing this, but understood that it was what she wanted. The will was read, they checked their boxes to make sure my mom didn't miss anything when telling me to pack, and they left me to my house. Weeks passed, and I finally felt like I could start doing things to the house. Now, I did say the house was dingy. It's not worth $150,000, but the housing market is crazy, so I thought it was a bit of luck. It needs repairs: the roof, the chimney, the water heater, pipes, and the doors and windows for heating purposes. Everything inside is darkly painted or made with wood that just sucks out all of the light. I immediately had people check the roof, chimney, and water heater. My siblings offered to lend me some money, but I declined as I had been saving for a while to buy an apartment or something small since it's just me. I could also rent rooms to local college students to get some of that money back. I picked out paints for different rooms, but decided to leave the wood flooring. As I started going through everything in the house, which had specifically been left to me as stated in the will, I began finding things. There was money in books, and there are so many books. Money was taped under beds, folded into the fancy sheets, and hidden in the teapot and cups that had been passed down in the family, which we had never been allowed to touch for fear that we might break them. I found jewelry in different boxes, hidden in the attic, the vents, and in sock drawers. Some of it was so gaudy and had to be costume, but I put it all together. Thank goodness I did, and took it to be appraised. The jewelry is worth nearly half of what my siblings got. Even the would-be costume jewelry is worth something. Even now, I'm still finding things. I find antique items, fancy watches, untouched clothing, and bags with price tags still on them, belts and shoes still in their boxes. All of this was tucked away, apparently hidden and never talked about. Some of the clothing still had receipts, and since neither my sister nor I can wear them, I took them back to see if I could get the refunds or start selling them online, since again, everything left in the house was specifically for me. I took the cash and used it to help pay for the immediate repairs, and it almost covered the whole thing. I looked through the jewelry and kept what I liked, which was very little as I'm not into that sort of thing, and put aside some for my sister and my brother's daughter. I liquidated the rest and put that into savings. I also set aside some of the bags, belts, and watches for my siblings and their families. We can't fit the clothes, but those things are easier to swap around. I invited everyone over and gifted them the items, telling them I had found them while cleaning everything out and thought they might like to have them. Everyone was happy to get them, and there wasn't much bickering among the kids. They asked what else I found, and I explained the jewelry I kept and the clothing I was selling off. My brother got a weird look on his face and asked if I had found any money. I told him I had, but tried to downplay it as mostly change and loose bills. He asked to see the money, so I grabbed the giant water refill container I had started storing all the coins in. He told me that it was a lot of coins and asked if I was going to use it for the laundromat since I left them all loose. I rolled my eyes because I have a washer and dryer set. I told him there was no point in cashing them in until I cleaned the whole house. He told me to let them know so we could all split that and the money I got from selling the clothing. When I asked why, he said, "So we can split it." I asked him why I would split it when they all had large cash inheritances, sentimental and expensive things, and other stuff. I literally got the house, the problems, the cleanup, and the nice things I did find that I thought they might like, I handed over without even being asked to. He told me I didn't have to be a greedy jerk about it and to never mind. My sister gave me the side eye but didn't say anything. I feel guilty for misleading them about how much I actually found, even though it was all put toward making the house better. To be clear, all of my mother's debts were paid, and she had money set aside for the funeral service and cremation. So, am I the jerk? Update. My house, still feels weird saying this, already had outside cameras, which I installed when I moved in, but I added more to the property line, inside the house in key spots, and around the garage. I also put up no trespassing signs while I look through companies that build proper fences. The property is just small enough that I can afford to fence it. I changed the locks as soon as I read advice to do so. I hadn't thought about it since I work from home. Mom also kept a spare hidden key in a plant because my sister used to lose everything constantly, so I made sure to remove it and not replace it with a new one. It's a good thing I did all of this because 2 days after my post, I had to run into town for groceries and a few quick errands. I live on the outskirts with neighbors a bit of a distance away, so they wouldn't notice anyone stopping by. I got a notification on my phone about movement, and I checked because I wasn't expecting any packages. My brother was getting out of his car, looking around and checking the windows. He tried his key in the door and got upset when it didn't work. He checked the flower plant and kicked it over. The cameras around the house let me communicate, so I just said, "That was rude," into the speaker. He jumped and spun around to see nothing. I asked him what he wanted, and he demanded to know why I put up cameras. I said, "Because I'm a single woman living in the woods." He shifted from foot to foot before saying he would be back so we could talk. Then he left. I messaged the video evidence of him trying to get in while I wasn't home to him, his wife, my sister, and her fiance. I included the message, "I changed the locks because I don't know who mom gave them out to, like her friends, and I have cameras. Because of this attempt to get in while I'm not home, no one will be getting the new key. I don't just randomly try to get into your house when you're not home." He sent me a lot of nasty texts after that, trying to shame me for doing it. I told him he shouldn't be doing things he doesn't want others to know about, and that it's a reflection on him, not me. He told me I was a jerk and blocked me. My sister thinks I went too far by telling his wife because she's threatening to take the kids to her mom's. She also thinks I went too far by showing her fiance because now he doesn't want my brother to have keys to their place for emergencies. Somehow, I get the feeling this isn't over yet. Time to adopt a very big dog. Update 2. I'm adopting a pair of dogs from my local shelter. I did start a paper trail with both the police and a lawyer who's a family friend. I documented the attempted break-in, didn't press charges, but had them speak with my brother and put him on notice. He ended up getting new phone numbers, yes, plural, to contact me and go off on me for sicking the cops on him. I took all of those messages to the lawyer and sent off a few things. A cease and desist for the alarming number of calls, texts, social media DMs, and emails he sent me. Some were full of rage about how I took his kids from him, while others were about how he knew I found the money in the house. Not once did he mention my post, and honestly, I'm so done with him that I wouldn't even care if he saw it. My lawyer says you can't touch this. My sister, Brittany, asked to go for coffee and apologized for taking Mason's side. She just didn't want the friction and thought the three of us could have worked it out together instead of getting others involved. She and her fiance have an understanding that he handles his family and she handles hers, at least for disputes and things like that. By sending it to him before she had a chance to react, it felt like overstepping because I didn't give her the opportunity to do literally anything before her fiance started losing his mind. I did apologize because I hadn't thought of it like that. I asked her what she would have done if I had just sent her the video, and she said she would have sat on it for a day to think about it. Then she would have probably asked me for more information or talked to him to see what the heck he was thinking. She also said that I was a jerk for telling everyone the gifts were from the house. I should have said something about a bonus at work or made up another story. I have no reason to trust her, but it makes sense. So I'm going to cautiously keep in mind that she has a harder time expressing thoughts and emotions in a normal way. Our parents weren't into the whole test your kid for XYZ, so she's been struggling with whether or not to be tested for certain neurodivergent tendencies. All that said, I found something really weird and I don't want to open it. In the basement, tucked far into a corner and buried under a bookshelf and behind boxes of things, is an ancient-looking freezer. It was, and still is, plugged in. It's running. It was buried and dusty in a way that makes me think there's no edible food inside. But you ever get the feeling that something's just not right? Do I open it? Do I pretend I never saw it? Do I have someone else open it? Any ideas about why it was hidden? My friend joked that it was my grandfather's game box and it has decade-old deer inside. Is that a thing? Update 3. I'll get the freezer story out of the way since I know many are curious. I called over my lawyer friend, Lawrence, and explained that I needed more information on a few things but would require a house call due to contractors coming and going. When he arrived and saw no one was there, he looked annoyed, but I explained the freezer situation. He laughed, saying that if we found a body, he was bailing, but he still came down to the basement. This all happened yesterday. We put on gloves and masks. Lawrence held the camera, documenting everything. The date, time, address, and so on. I opened the freezer. Inside, we found important documents sealed in a lot of plastic, old bottles of moonshine, frozen pressed flowers, and a book with dates, and a bit of cash, mostly coins, and an ancient-looking porcelain doll. The documents included birth and death certificates, some dating back quite a while. It seems I would have had another sibling if they had lived, as well as 3 more aunts and a few even older relatives. We figured the flowers were from funerals or memorial services, considering the dates attached to the pressed pages. The bottles of moonshine looked really old. The only reason I knew it was moonshine was thanks to Lawrence. He said alcohol doesn't usually freeze, and based on the smell, he was confident. We'll have the coins appraised soon, so I'm still going through the other coins I've found in odd places like the curtains. As for the doll, it looks very old, but it's in good condition. It was in a box, wrapped up in cloth, old newspapers, and more. Lawrence thinks the hair on its head might be real human hair because it doesn't look synthetic. I had to dry it off after it thawed, and there's a smudged name on its foot. It's currently sitting on my living room coffee table, and I'm not sure what to do with it. The newspaper dates give us a vague idea of when it was put away, and it's clearly old. And probably possessed. Now on to Mason. His wife is filed for divorce and is going for full custody. She has the kids with her at her mother's house. She reached out to me, explaining that Mason told her the house was willed to all 3 siblings, and he was waiting for me to buy out his share. But when I sent that message about the locks, she got suspicious and started digging. It turns out Mason maxed out all their credit cards, took out a reverse mortgage on their house, which has been paid off, and opened a few accounts in her name. He didn't use any of the life-changing money left to him to pay off their debts. She doesn't know where the money went, but when she locked down her credit, it left him unable to use the cards he opened in her name, which sparked a huge fight. I can't even begin to imagine where the money went. He doesn't have new cars, devices, or anything visible. Their 2 kids, who are 14 and 10, are old enough to understand what's happening. They won't speak to him until he tells them why they're losing their childhood home, why their mother is upset at him, and where all the money went. My niece knows all the accounts are empty, including her college fund, and she's furious. My nephew isn't as concerned about college, which is understandable at his age. Mason keeps messaging me saying, "It's all your fault," and just being nasty overall. I would have blocked him if it weren't for collecting evidence. My sister admitted that he's ranting to her too, but she doesn't want to upset him because they live just a few blocks away, making it easy for him to come knocking. Despite all of this, she won't be staying with me. My fence construction should be starting any day now. I'll be getting my 2 dogs tomorrow. I think I have everything covered. My fence is being built and work around the house is still ongoing. I added a home security system and a few hidden baseball bats because some of the messages I received about what he could do are scary. I added extra locks around the house, and I'm considering getting rid of the sliding glass door or finding a way to secure it like a gate. Lawrence warned me that putting too much information out there might harm my case for a restraining order and slander, so I don't plan to update any more in the future. Am I the jerk for implying my friends are being cheap over my wedding? I, 38 female, am marrying my fiance, who's 38 male, next year. I'm the last of my friends to get married, and honestly, I had made my peace with being single and getting a dog before I met my fiance. I'm part of a group of 6 girlfriends who have all known each other since college. We've been through everything together: breakups, holidays, weddings, babies, and promotions. When I told them I got engaged, they seemed happy and sent me congratulatory messages. However, when everyone else got engaged, they threw them parties or went out for dinners to celebrate, but they didn't do anything for me. I gave them nearly a year's notice for my bachelorette party, which I'm keeping low-key as I don't want a big event. We're just going for dinner and drinks at one of my favorite restaurants in our city. However, slowly, all of my friends have been dropping out, saying they can't get a babysitter, have to work late, or they're on a work trip. I've invited them all to the wedding as well, which is also a small affair, but one friend has already messaged the group chat saying she's not sure she can find a babysitter for that day. My wedding is months away, and I'm finding it hard to believe she knows that far in advance. 2 others have also said they're not going to stay for the reception because they will be tired by then. Here's where I may be the jerk. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I sent the link to the registry. My fiance and I already have a house together, so we're asking for mostly small items with nothing exceeding $50. We would be delighted with anything anyone chooses to buy us. They sent a message in the chat saying they were going to band together to get me an air fryer as a group gift. It cost $40, so I was surprised that they seemed to be chipping in $8 each. Over the years, I must have spent thousands of dollars on their weddings, 2 of which were overseas. I've attended dinners and brunches to celebrate their job promotions and bought gifts for their babies, all while feeling terrible about myself watching my friends celebrate the happiness I never thought I would have. I sent a message just asking for clarification if it was all of them buying it together, and one replied asking if I was calling them cheap. There's been dead silence since. That wasn't my intention, but it really feels like because I'm last, they're just over having to do these events, which is feeding into my insecurity about getting married so late. They do have legitimate reasons for these things. They all have lives and kids, and maybe not as much money as when we were younger. Perhaps I'm just letting my insecurities get in the way. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. These people are not your friends. Find a new friend group. Oh, and they are cheap. Yeah, these people do not like OP. She's not picking up on it for some reason. OP seems to be what I call the leftover friend. Basically, that one awkward person who has been in your group forever but isn't really anyone's friend, aside from maybe the one girl who brought her into the group in the first place. Weddings, baby showers, and birthdays are perfect times for everyone else to think, I don't want to be around her. Update. I wanted to clarify a few questions that were asked. I didn't care at all what they bought us as a gift. I didn't care if they got us a gift at all. It was never about the air fryer. I really wasn't calling them cheap. I was just clarifying if it was coming from all of them. I also didn't ask if they were getting us a gift. They brought this up themselves. I couldn't put my finger on why it made me feel a bit weird. I think the word I was searching for was disrespect. Someone said an $8 gift is worse than no gift, and I think that's the heart of it. The money issue came up as well. As far as I know, all my friends are fairly solvent. We all work in finance field, mostly as accountants, 3 of whom are very senior in their firms, and all of their husbands have good jobs. So we never discuss money, and I know kids and the cost of living are high at the moment, so I'd never want to assume anyone's financial status. However, everyone seems fine. Another issue that many people asked about is how often we see each other. The answer is quite regularly. We made a pact years ago to meet up at least once a month, no matter how crazy life gets, and we've mostly been able to stick to that. The 6 of us usually meet on Sunday for brunch. Apart from that, I live in the same neighborhood as 2 of them, so we do dinners occasionally, and parties for the kids are a must. The last question was whether my wedding is child-free. It's not, and I love kids. My friends' kids are surrogate nieces and nephews to me, and they're all invited. The friend who said she couldn't find childcare stated she didn't want to bring her kids because weddings are easier without them. Lastly, some suggested they don't like my fiancé. They've never given me that impression. Everyone seems to get along well enough, and they've known him for 2 years. He occasionally goes golfing with some of their husbands. Reading the comments was like having cold water thrown over me. I've never considered myself the outsider friend, but a lot of people suggested that I was. And it really threw me off and overwhelmed me. I didn't send any messages to the group chat, even though many commenters gave me good suggestions about what to write. I withdrew into myself until my fiancé pried it out of me. I showed him this post, and he got super quiet and very angry. I've never seen him this angry over anything. He asked if I had spoken to them about this, and I said no. He started to call them individually and read them the riot act. He called them $8 jerks and said he would be sending them an itemized list of the thousands of dollars I had spent on them over the years. He called BS on the one who said she couldn't get a babysitter, and she said she was sick of having to go to the same boring weddings over and over, and yours won't be any different. He lost it on her. I hate the idea of him fighting my battles for me, so I asked him to stop after the 3rd person. I sent a message to the group chat asking if we could all speak as a group, and the 3 he called sent voice messages saying that my fiancé was a psycho and that they wouldn't speak to me anymore. I felt tired and defeated, so I sent a message saying that if they didn't want to be friends anymore, that was fine, and to consider their invitations withdrawn to the bachelorette and wedding. No one has replied, so I guess we're done. I suppose I'm better off, but I don't feel that way. I just feel numb and sad. They've been such a big part of my life for so long, and I really feel the loss. I'm so sad I won't see their kids anymore. Some of them refer to me as auntie, and it's making me cry that I won't see them grow up. My fiancé has apologized for rushing in and not asking how I wanted to handle it, and I've accepted. We're good, and I'm looking forward to our life together. I mostly wanted to say thank you to the kind Redditors who showed me the light about this and offered congratulations on our wedding and even offered to buy us a gift. As the leftover friend who didn't realize until my late 20s, this hit me in the feels. It could definitely have gone on longer, but thankfully I came to my senses, probably in no small part to finally getting a proper mental health diagnosis. And as for my last trick, I'll break my own heart by exaggerating my place in other people's lives. I read a study recently that said most people nowadays don't actually have friends in general. I've got all kinds of friends, until I wake up and realize it was just another dream. Relatable, Reddit boy. Most relatable. My wife expects me to buy our kids Starbucks every day. My wife and I adopted Mila, who's 10, Grace, who's 5, and Lucas, who's 4, from foster care. Grace and Lucas were in a very loving home that would have adopted them if they could. We're still in contact with their foster parents and see them every few months. Mila's home was horrible. She was the first one that came to us, and we spent nearly a month in the hospital, and she needed a feeding tube when she came home. Mila has some special needs that are a direct result of that home. A few months ago, we got a call asking if we could take a 14-year-old, Cassie, from the same home that Mila was in. Cassie's needs aren't as severe as Mila's, but between that and the fact that she's years behind in school, normal schooling would have been difficult for her. My sister was a teaching assistant for special ed at our local school district. It was so bad that she didn't even last a year there. When she heard about the girls, she said to not let them end up in special ed in our district. My wife quit her job and homeschooled Mila for the first few months, but she's not a teacher and she doesn't know how to help Mila the way she needed it. We started looking for special needs schools and found one over an hour away that we love. My wife got a job in the office there, so we got cheap tuition for Mila and eventually Cassie when she started school there. The girls are doing great at this school and we're considering moving closer to it to make life easier. The issue is my wife, Mila, and Cassie are out of the house by 6:30 every morning. Cassie is up at 5:30 and Mila is up at 6. They're all tired when it's time to go to school and work, so as a treat, they go to Starbucks every morning. Mila gets a hot chocolate, Cassie is allowed to get a small coffee, and my wife gets a coffee to help them get through the morning. They're not always the best at getting the cups out of the car by the time the younger two see it, and lately they've been throwing a temper tantrum every morning when we pass by a Starbucks. My wife thinks we should just get it for them, but I don't want to. I think it's a waste of money and they can have chocolate milk at home. Am I the jerk for not getting them Starbucks? Why can't your wife, Cassie, and Mila make their coffee and hot chocolate at home and take them in reusable cups? Then the other kids can have the same hot chocolate. Remove overpriced Starbucks from the equation. ETA. There's way too much unnecessary arguing and disrespectful communication happening in this thread. I feel my intentions are being sorely misunderstood and dissimilar comparisons are being made. I'm sorry if what I've said is offensive to anyone. Not the jerk. Kids can't always get what they want. They need to learn this quickly. Also, while I do not know your financial situation, Starbucks is expensive, and that can add up quickly between 4 kids. Oh, finally some common sense. Even more if you two buy something. Coffee can be made at home for cheap. Get a few creamers, non-dairy creamers, maybe even an appliance, whipped cream, chocolate, and caramel syrups, and voila. My wife and I were both Starbucks junkies. Multiple trips a week, and not the cheap brewed stuff usually. For Christmas 2 years ago, my wife gave me some very fancy coffee making equipment. We immediately bought an entire selection of flavored syrups, chocolate, and white chocolate sauce and caramel. I bought 2 cups of Starbucks since. It's an expensive one-time outlay. We put about $2,000 into the coffee bar at home, but at 3 cups a day, 5 days a week, and an average of $4 a cup, do the math. That's $3,100 a year in coffee. The setup would pay for itself in a year or so. In my opinion, no jerks here. What's with all these people suddenly freaking out about sugar when it's a hot chocolate and a small coffee after you've woken up at 5 a.m.? Just tell the youngest kids they can have Starbucks when they're older or when they take part in the early morning routine. They'll survive. I don't get all of you're a jerk for even looking at Starbucks. Yeah, I also don't understand all these people freaking out over hot chocolate and small coffee. What's wrong with getting them a little treat for waking up at the crack of dawn? It's really not that much sugar or that much caffeine. Am I the jerk for teaching my son to call me dad against his mother's wishes? I hooked up with a woman named Mary that I didn't know at a party in 2016. About a year ago, someone reached out to me and told me she knew Mary and her now 6-year-old son was mine. This person hadn't known my name until meeting another friend of mine, and they figured it out. Apparently, Mary had started dating someone, John, just after we hooked up, then found out she was pregnant. Mary and John got serious, got married, and John adopted my son. After I found out, I got a lawyer and filed for custody in my state. Mary and John fought me through the whole process, telling me not to break up their family. They have a younger daughter together. After lots of legal fees, I finally forced a paternity test and got every other weekend. My intent is to keep pushing until I have 50-50 custody. I looked into reversing the adoption, but it's basically impossible, so I'll probably have to wait until my son is 18. I've been having my son over for the past few months, and it's been great. He gets along great with my girlfriend too. He understands that I'm his father, but of course he calls John dad. I'm not trying to get him to stop that because I don't want to confuse him or make him uneasy. But last weekend, I did tell him that he can call me dad too, instead of Mr. Last Name, like his mom told him to. He seemed fine with it and called me dad while he was with me. His mom found out and has been pestering me all week, saying that I'm just a donor and John is his real dad and she'll take me to court for parental alienation. The last thing she said was that I can be an uncle, but my son only has one dad. I'm ignoring most of what she said, but I'm wondering if I am the jerk for asking my son to call me dad in this situation. Edit. Some people are asking how I could gain parental rights adoption. It is possible because I did not consent to the adoption, and Mary claimed she did not know the father. The birth certificate was blank for father. John decided to adopt when my son was 1 year old and he got married to Mary. She's going to take you to court for parental alienation? Oh, I'd love to see that one. Your Honor, this man that I hooked up with, the donor for my baby, I never told him and lied about knowing who he was so that I could have my new husband adopt him. I then fought tooth and nail to keep them from ever meeting and getting to know each other. This man actually told his son that he could call him Dad, causing our son to be alienated from his adoptive father. In case my opinion is not clear, you're not the jerk, and there's no reason this kid can't have two dads. Not the jerk. And it's great that you clearly want to be a parent to your kid that you just found out about. I do kind of hope you've spoken with a child therapist to make sure you're handling this as best you can to help your kid understand what's happening and get him help if he needs some help processing everything. And you could always approach other terms for dad, like pop, daddy-o, or something else, and see what else you can come up with and what he's comfortable with. Plenty of kids have two dads, and I hope you can all find peace. The more love a kid has, the better. You're the jerk. The kid is 6, and you've done nothing ever to be a dad to him until now. The kid has a stable life with his mother and adoptive father. That's his home. That's the only life he's ever known. Wanting to suddenly have 50-50 custody to uproot his stability is not in his best interests. It's selfish. You want this for you, not for your kid. The kid barely knows you, you're not family to him, and to tear him away 50% of the time from the only family he's ever known is gross. OP is this kid's dad, and it's through no fault of his own that he's had no contact until now. That's on the mother. How can you say it's not in the kid's best interest to have his biological dad who wants to be a loving and caring parent in his life? That's crazy. Kids can adapt to having additional family members who care for them and love them. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.